Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
This is a bonus episode. Thank you for joining us for Black Entrepreneur Experience. This is where we shine the light on the most successful Black entrepreneurs in the world. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards, and I am so honored today to have with us Letitia Henderson. She's the founder of Community Orientation Workshop, also known as COW, C-O-W. She operates the community tour program that gives her clients an up-close dive and drive into diverse communities and cultures in Oakland, California. Welcome, Letitia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know what? I have given our audience just a brief snippet of your bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and tell us what you would like us to know about your company and yourself?
Sure. Thank you. Well, the Community Orientation Workshop is one of our latest innovative services, and I can't wait to talk a little bit more about the tour. But the name of my company, the full name is Exceptional Community Connections. I started this company 2 years ago, just based on a vision to bring folks together and bridge social capital, particularly within the African American community and organizations that endeavor to serve the African American community. I'm a social worker by profession. I have an MSW degree from UC Berkeley, and I'm a native Oaklander, born and raised here in the East Bay area, attended McClymonds High School, very proud, go Warriors. And I say all of that just to highlight the fact that what I am endeavoring to do is to promote authenticity in human relationships. And I've been a champion advocate for community service programs for over 15 years, working in a range of sectors from public sector, nonprofit, private, and working in various capacities, such as the Oakland Housing Authority, working with the probation department. And through those various roles, I've had the opportunity to really understand how systems impact everyday lived experiences, and not to mention having family members and friends who have also been benefactors of these service systems. So I'm really excited to be on the show and to talk a little bit more about ECC.
So tell us, Letitia, how did you know that this was the business for you and that it was going to be successful? What was that aha moment?
Yeah, so the aha moment for me was, well, as a management analyst working in Alameda County, I had the responsibility of managing multi-million-dollar grants and state-funded programs and projects for youth services. And oftentimes, while managing those programs, I had to hire, recruit, and work with consultants, individual contract consultants. And after a while, I started to notice and look at the scopes of work that these contractors were developing. And it was anything from a needs assessment, a survey, to a data report. And we were paying them a considerable amount of money. And I just thought about the work that I was doing and how the work was very similar, and the lifestyle that consulting and being an independent contractor can afford you. And that is the ability to hold your own hours, to work from wherever location you would like, but also to still check in with your primary client and serve sort of as a coach, and also to help be a positive contributor, but you weren't tied to the outcome, so to speak. It was really up to your client to make that decision. And that just fit my style, and it fit where my career had brought me to after working for more than 15 years in the human services community. So I had that aha moment. It was actually shortly after I was married. I'm a newlywed. I got married in 2015, and I just said, my life is shifting, and I really want to be a positive advocate for human services, for cultural connections and community. And I had made a decent name for myself, not to boast, but I made it my business not to burn any bridges. To date, knock on wood, I've never been laid off or fired, thank goodness. And I just said, to be a good consultant, it really requires that. You have to know people. You have to know something. And I just saw that opening, that window and that opportunity for me to make my move.
So one of the things that you had kind of talked about at the beginning was you talked about your tours. Why don't you parlay into that and tell our audience about this new venture that you just started?
Yeah, absolutely. So after I launched into consulting and gathered several clients, mostly in the human, youth, and family services arena, did some team building retreats. I began to take a look at my external environment and think about, certainly as I was making my projections for new clients and marketing and outreach, who was my true target audience, and actually what was my value proposition. And I worked very closely with a corporate coach who began to ask me the hard questions, and that was, there's thousands of organizational consultants and management consultants, certainly in the Bay Area. What makes you different? What makes you stand out? And what are you bringing to the consulting sector, the consulting sphere, that doesn't already exist? And so after thinking about the shifts and some of the demographic changes right here in my home community of Oakland, California, I began to think about, wow, wouldn't it be awesome to take a new employee orientation experience or facilitative experience and create an opportunity for folks who are new to an entire community, a new environment, and orientate them, and in real time, like give them a full experiential opportunity, take them out into the community to meet everyday people, give them the history and the historical layout and background of the area, and then allow them to ponder and think about, now that they are here, what could their contributions be? So I really it started there, and we kind of took the idea and we ran with it. And it's been going strong since the month of March.
So tell us, what is one daily or weekly habit that you do consistently that has given you success?
Yeah. So I will give you one sort of from a self-care holistic area, and that is pray. I absolutely start my day with prayer and meditation because it just centers me, it grounds me, it gives me focus, it rejuvenates me, and it absolutely helps to keep my optimism going. Certainly, as I'm in the startup phase, and I walked away last year from my full-time position, and it was absolutely an act of faith. And so starting my day off with prayer and meditation continuously reassures me that I make the right decision. And for me to just be open to new surprises that each day will bring. The more concretely, in terms of a business practice model that I have, is to review my calendar daily, starting with the top of the day. After prayer and meditation, I look at my schedule and I see what is before me, what is my week looking like, so that I'm absolutely critical of how I'm spending my time and how I'm allocating my time throughout that day. The next thing is taking a look at my communication. Are there any meetings that I have, any critical emails that I need to send out? And I just sort of create a checklist to help govern myself. And that's been pretty effective for as a practice, a daily practice this year.
So tell us, how would you define, Letitia, how would you define success?
I define success as vision plus, I would say, a formula. If I could come up with a formula, it would be vision plus optimism plus audacity plus tangible skill competency that is. So I say that's the formula of success, because if you think about each pillar that I laid out, you absolutely have to have a sense of where you're going. What is the thing? Like I said, the corporate coach asked me, what are you bringing to the game of organizational consulting that doesn't already exist in the East Bay area, in Oakland? So you have to see what is the big picture and the impact and the legacy that you want to make. The next thing is having a sense of your optimism. So you have to see it as a labor of love, something that you could do with your eyes closed and know that at the end of the day, you have made a tremendous contribution and that you're in integrity with yourself. And then the next thing I mentioned was having that audacity. So that boldness and that confidence in your skills and abilities that you can actually do it. No matter what your accountant is telling you, what the market is saying, that you are absolutely confident in yourself to make your vision happen. And then finally, as I mentioned before, having the tangible skill. So don't go so far into your vision and that audacity that you're not taking stock and inventory into what tangible skills do you have to actually push your product or push your business forward. For me, I'm a social worker. It was human relationships. And also, I have a background in management and organizational development. So I can create an Excel spreadsheet, a project timeline with my eyes closed, crank out a grant, and actually how to implement that grant, a logic model. I have this toolkit and these skill competencies. It was just a matter of having faith and trust in myself that I could actually step out and do it. So that's my formula for success.
And when did it show up and manifest in your life personally?
So, that is a great question. I'd like to say, just drawing on my background, just like as I mentioned before, I'm a native Oaklander, and I grew up definitely in our inner city, low income communities, and I have always had to demonstrate and show not only other people, but I've always had to show myself that I could do it despite what was before me or the messaging that I was told. So I'm a Black woman entrepreneur. And as I mentioned, I was told, I guess, absolutely from day one that because neither one of my parents had college degrees, that I would only go so far in life. So I made it my business to make a point to myself that, yes, I could go to college, I could get a master's degree, I could work in some prestigious institutions, as well as work with everyday people and still become a success story. Now, like I said, it wasn't something I did to so much as prove other people wrong as it was myself. And I think obtaining, I would say, establishing my fictitious business name and opening up my business account, I think that was a sheer marker, and getting my business license through the city of Oakland was a marker to myself that, oh my gosh, I have a business in my name, in the name that I came up with. This is absolutely doable. So I think all of those factors really honed in the fact that you can do anything you put your mind to, and I certainly can.
So take us on this journey that you had mentioned. Letitia, you're a newlywed.
Yes.
You left your 9 to 5.
Yes.
And you started this business.
Yes.
How did you bring all that together?
With very little sleep. Very little sleep, I can say that. But I'm a very ambitious person, and so whatever I put my mind to, if I have a goal in sight, I will not stop until I get it. And it's not from a place of being selfish or desperate. It's really discipline. It's really, I think, every milestone when I look back on my my young life, I'll say, I've had at every single point, I can point out sort of these rites of passage experiences that I had to get through. And with each experience, be it graduating from high school to moving out and getting my own apartment, I've had to demonstrate again to myself that I had the wherewithal and I had these character qualities that would take me to the next level. So getting married was a rites of passage experience, but life doesn't stop just because you get married. Very much so, still dedicated to giving back to my community as well as making something of my career. And so I begin to look at my time and say, hey, I didn't quit my 9 to 5 right away. I incrementally, did things to work smarter and not harder. And so if it was, using my vacation time to find 1 or 2 days where I'm mapping out my concept for my business or laying out what my messaging was going to be for my website, just in incremental steps, using my time wisely. And then when I made the jump, the great leap outside of my 9 to 5, I had to make sure that I had enough projects lined up so that I could not only sustain my business in the first year, but that I could also have enough resources to build this new model, and that is the community tour. So I built the community tour project without a loan, with my own. I bootstrapped to build the community tour because nothing like this currently exists in Oakland. There is no mobile tour that takes you into the everyday lived experiences of communities in parts of Oakland that are historic and special to the African American community. Nothing like that exists. So I didn't have any early adopters or investors. I had to invest my own sweat equity and tangible dollars. So but once you open up yourself to, again, possibility and vision, anything is possible. So I found myself, once I put in my own time, I was willing to wake up at 5 a.m, go to the gym. That's another daily practice that I try when I'm disciplined to keep up with. While I'm on that treadmill or on the elliptical or working with my trainer, I'm staying focused on what do I have to do next. As I'm building my physical muscle, I'm also building my mental muscle with regards to, what conversation can I have? Who can I contact today to talk to them about where I'm going and get them to be an early adopter or a champion? So one thing led to the next. I found a co-working office space in the Lake Merritt district of Oakland. And again, it was just through relationships and being open, but also having the resources and having a plan to be able to execute. So it's been quite a journey. Some would say it's wacky as a newlywed to jump into starting a new business. But like I say, all my friends and family members, as soon as we got married, they're like, oh, when is the baby coming? And they even gave the baby a name. They called our baby Lee, because both of our names, our first initials start with L-E. So they're, when is baby Lee coming? Well, I had to say, you know what? Let's do a pivot. Instead of having a physical baby, I had this business. This is my business baby. So meet baby Lee, Exceptional Community Connections, and the Community Tour Project. So it's taking, a lot of discipline, I'll say, a lot of creativity, and also knowing when to stop. I think to stop and take time to breathe and know when to unplug so that I can sustain myself over time. One final piece I'll say, because this is really critical, especially for the Black community, and that is bringing others along. So as I'm building, I'm being very careful to also mentor other young women, other people who have the desire and could see themselves as entrepreneurs. I don't try to keep what it is that I'm doing a secret, because you never know what you're doing that could help somebody else. So with whether it's family members, even to my very own, I have a 12-year-old nephew, and every Friday I would pick him up after school and have him file papers for me or take my inventory. But it takes a lot of time to do, but it's so invaluable, and that's your legacy building.
So, Letitia, you had mentioned that for the community tour, you bootstrapped that business. What about Exceptional Community Connection? Tell us, how did you raise the capital for that? Did you bootstrap it? Did you get investors? Did you crowdfund it? Did you use family and friends money?
Well, funny that you say family and friends. I'm not sure if my husband counts, but he's definitely have been an investor, whether it's buying bottles of wine for the launch event to, hey, babe, I need you to go half with me on these T-shirts for the community tour. Definitely, he has been my rock and champion and motivator, and just saying, just do it. What if you don't do it? Then what regrets will you have? So I definitely have been grateful to have my husband as my champion and early investor, not only financially, but morally. I also have had to bootstrap Exceptional Community Connections as well. So it's been almost like a quest, and almost every single month, there's something new that I'm learning that I need to have. So very recently, I learned that with the tour, there's a certain type of insurance that I need to have to make sure I'm not only covering my contract employees who are tour guides that I'm bringing along and training, but that also covers passengers should they injure themselves while they're visiting a vendor that a stop that we are on. So with every new experience, I've been blessed enough to have met people with backgrounds in insurance and law and real estate, who have in sales and marketing, who are everyday people and who have been, my friends or who I've recently met. And they've been very open and having conversations with me about, hey, you should take a look at this. I won't ever forget being in Costa Rica with some of my sorority sisters, my line sisters, and two of my line sisters are attorneys. One does corporate contracts, the other one works on the insurance side, and they were saying, hey, we're so excited to hear about your business endeavor, but who's reviewing your contracts with you? And I was like, ooh, good question. I have prepaid legal. They're like, yeah, you should get an attorney to take a look at that for you and help you draft that. So it's been, just a sheer blessing. And I have had to use my own money. To date, I haven't established a crowd fund yet. That is coming. I also haven't had any investors. Just folks have purchased their tickets for the community tour, and I have negotiated contracts with my nonprofit clients who have helped me incrementally build the business.
So tell us, Letitia, what is one valuable lesson you wish you knew before starting your business?
Oh my goodness. I think one valuable lesson is to take time to really reflect and go with your gut instincts. So for example, I'm all about transparency, and anyone who's worked with me, they know that's how I roll. And that is the name, the Community Orientation Workshop, the COW. I wasn't sold on it initially. I thought it was new and it kind of had a ring to it. And it sounds sort of trendy depending on the audience. But I always felt like there could be another name for this experience. And so right now I'm in the middle of going through some rebranding for the tour itself. And so I just wish I would have given myself a little more time to really think that through, because now I have to go back and revisit my marketing materials and just change the name. It's a minor shift, but I definitely think when you're rolling out a new product, it's important to have that consistency and be sure of, trusting your gut instincts about what you are pushing out to the community. So I have to stick with it to date because that's what I rolled with. It is the Community Orientation Workshop, the COW. But, I think definitely if I would have, looking back, I would have given it more thought and I would have whipped out the new name that it's transitioning to in just a little while. Just stay tuned for the fall reveal. I think the other valuable lesson that I learned was to really start to not be afraid of the numbers, to take a look at the financial projections. I'm a visionary and I'm a very creative person. And almost any position that I've ever had, I've tried to bring something, add a little something extra to that position or that community or that system that wasn't there before. And so in doing that, though, I've definitely experienced times where I've run myself ragged, only because I didn't stop to take inventory of the cost. How much is this really going to cost me? Not only in financial dollars, but in energy, in sweat equity, and do I have the capacity to take it all on? Do I have the bandwidth to do it? So those are some of the most valuable lessons to date that I've learned.
So, Letitia, who is your top 2 influencers in life and what lessons did they teach you?
Great. So I'll go with sort of my, from a political leadership stance, I would say Shirley Chisholm. Definitely, she's one of my greatest heroines because she really stood for, first and foremost, stepping out and doing something that hadn't been done before, and that is running for the United States presidency as a Black woman and being unbought and unbossed while doing it. And so that is not compromising her values, her integrity for investors or folks who would contribute to her campaign if it would take it outside of her values, and embracing what that meant. And certainly, of course, we all know she didn't win, but I think just that boldness, that sense of purpose and commitment is something that always sits with me. And being aware of my messaging, no matter who I'm talking to, I have to stay true to my core. And so I could take this, especially the community tour. I've had folks talk about, oh, you should partner with this audience or that audience and it will get you buku dollars. But that's not, I have to stick to the core of the scope of this community tour, and that is bridging cultural gaps and allowing a story to be told with regards to communities that are shifting from a cultural stance. And not everybody's going to be open to that, but I also have to trust and stay true to my moral and my sense of integrity. The other, I would say from a spiritual stance, it would be my grandmother. Her name is Liz, Liz Chapman. She is the matriarch of our family, and she sacrificed so much for our family, including migrating here from Pine Bluff, Arkansas to the Bay Area in search of providing a better way of living and chance at life for future generations. And I'm the first generation graduate and the oldest grandchild in the family. And so I always look at my grandmother's example in terms of her sacrifice. And she has like this quiet, just this inner wisdom where she weighs things out and she's open and accepting of just about any person. And so I try to keep that at my core as well. So I think I think it served me well thus far, having those two mentors and those two champions to guide my path.
So Letitia, talk to a younger you. What advice would you give to a younger Letitia?
That there's nothing wrong with you and you are absolutely perfect just the way you are. That you're definitely, you have exactly what it takes to accomplish your wildest dreams and to help people while doing it. And again, I would underscore that there is nothing wrong with you, no matter where you come from, how you look, what you know and what you don't know. You are perfect just the way you are.
So where do you see the direction of your business within the next 2 years?
I absolutely see expansion of the tour, working closely with some of our, with the business community, and also developing a model, a curriculum that could be exported, or a vis-a-vis a train the trainer model to other local East Bay communities where they've also been facing demographic shifts, such as neighboring cities, including Richmond, Hayward, San Francisco. These are all areas where historically there's been a strong presence of the African American community, and currently that population is dwindling, but there's still a story to be told about the historic contributions of that area to arts, culture, sports, and just everyday life. And so I would love to take this model, this curriculum that we've cooked up here to tell the story of Oakland, and expand it into those areas, not as something that I would do, but something that natives of those communities would take on their own, and I would show them how to set it up. So I think that would be a beautiful thing, and I definitely see us moving in that direction.
So how do you marry, blend, balance, with it, whichever word you desire to use, your personal life, your family life with your business life?
Gosh, let me see. Didn't I say I start my day with prayer and meditation?
Absolutely. That's good.
It absolutely takes that. It's strength of mind. I've experienced already. I'm working on finishing touches on my brochure with my PR consultant while my phone is lighting up. There's a text message from my 12-year-old nephew saying, "Auntie, come pick me up from after school." And then I also know that I have to cook dinner. I have dinner on my mind from my husband. Not that he's demanding it, but I just feel obligated as a newlywed, new wife, to make sure that happens. Now I hear from my seasoned married friends, they're like, "Oh, girl, give it some years. You won't be that worried about dinner. He can feed himself." But no, I'm kind of old school in that way, that I want to make sure that I am being mindful of preserving my home environment, that I am doing what I can to support my family, and that I am sustaining my business. And so I always draw on the scripture that talks about the virtuous woman, and I say, wow, she was a bad mama jamma, because they talk about her fulfilling all those roles. And so I find and draw strength in that. But at the same time, I'm finding more and more time these days to also be gentle with myself, because I know that as Black women, we run ourselves ragged and burn out, and also have, suffer sometimes from mental illnesses that we don't talk about, and deal with depression and anxiety, and we just stuff it. And so it's very important to also be mindful of exactly how much I can take on my plate, and embracing this new muscle that I'm valuing, and that is saying no, and just drawing the line where I know I simply just can't give of myself. So I would say prayer, meditation, learning when to say no, and also handling myself with care.
So tell us, what is a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must-have for you in managing your business day to day?
Yeah, so a site that I have grown to love, and I was exposed to this site while working on a client project, and it's a website called Wufoo. It's Wufoo, WUFOO, and it's a database. It can function like SurveyMonkey. You could use it for data collection purposes, but I use it to collect information on my clients or potential passengers who want to book private tours. It allows me to find out who they are, some of their demographic information, what brings them to me, what are they hoping to get out of it. And get this, one of the most valuable pieces is that it allows you to embed a PayPal link so they can actually pay right there using your form. So I absolutely love Wufoo. And it also, on the back end, as a administrator, you could go in and it allows you to scroll through your inventory of users. And so it builds a customer database for you. Another tool that I have become very fond of is this tool called Streak, Streak, Streak. And this is a byproduct of Google. Streak really can allow you to build these dashboards so you can look at any project that you're working on at a glance and see all of the moving parts. It also keeps track of email correspondence for you, so you can list the date. I met with Dr. Francis on this date. This is what we talked about, and this is where she fits in the lifeline of the project that I'm managing. So I used my Streak dashboard for managing the tour, each part of the tour, all the way to if I'm working with a client. And it works just like a Gantt chart. For all of you organizational development nerds out there, but it's much more contemporary and fresh. And again, it allows you that email functionality, the email capability. So Wufoo and Streak have become my personal fave.
So tell us about your staff in terms of managing your business. Do you outsource your admin or your like if you have like accounting services or just different types of positions within your company, are you doing it on a contract basis or do you have permanent staff working for you?
Yeah, so I absolutely have contractors. It would be impossible for me to do all of this work by myself. So I've been blessed to have a talented group of professionals who are willing, they have the time, they're either consultants, or they just have the talent and the interest in some of the projects that I'm working on. So here's another tool that I use, I created, for my in-house, team of, contractors. They're subcontractors. I use Google Docs. I just created a Google form that allows me to gather basic information about them, what sort of skills they have, what's their background, are they passionate about children, family, data collection, needs assessment surveys, customer service, or event planning. So I just give them a drop-down menu of the various aspects of the types of projects I take on, and I have them just tell me and rank themselves so that when a project comes up that I'm working on, I can go back to them and invite them to come on board. I also absolutely use DocuSign. DocuSign has been such a lifesaver in terms of time and efficiency. So once I figure out who I want to work with on a particular project, I will then create their scope of work so that they're clear on what their portion will be, their deliverables, the rate, and then I have them sign, a subcontractor agreement, and I use DocuSign so that they have a copy in real time and I have a copy. And I have also been really blessed to work out of a space. It's called Co-Munity. It's a co-working space in Oakland that is also launched. It's a byproduct of this larger company called TSA. And that stands for the Tech Startup Admin. So there's this beautiful woman, beautiful entrepreneur by the name of Ladonna Higgins, who started the Tech Startup Admin company, TSA, and it's basically a staffing agency for startup organizations. With TSA and Co-Munity, basically Co-Munity is the office location, so entrepreneurs like myself or others can have a physical space to work out of, but she also provides the Tech Startup Admin feature that allows you to hire an admin staff person for up to 5 hours a month, and they can work on anything. It can be filing to creating policies and procedures for you, to event setup. And so I'm very, very lucky to have access to the Tech Startup Admin, as well as an army of individuals out there that I subcontract with.
And so the Tech Startup Admin, is it just individuals personally doing the business there, or are they doing anything for online that they have like virtual assistants in her pool?
Yes, she absolutely has virtual assistants available, and they can provide all a range of services. They can book airline tickets, book travel for you. They can help those mileage and expense reports that we all love that are a thorn in our side. They help with that. To accounting. They can absolutely assist with bookkeeping. But if you are a member of Co-Munity and you actually have an office space there, then there is admin assistant and facilities manager on site, and you can physically, hand things to that admin person, and, have them work with you directly. So, and I think it's a pretty sweet offer. It's been a God send as I'm working through this startup phase of my business.
So, Letitia, tell us, what book would you recommend and why?
Okay. So what I can't stop at one, because I always go spiritual leadership. That feeds and nurtures one part of me, and then also the technical business operational part. So I'll say, in terms of the vision and spiritual and keeping you motivated and nurturing that intrinsic motivation to be an entrepreneur, I would read The Wealth Choice. It's Success Secrets of Black Millionaires by Mr. Dennis Kimbro. It was handed to me as I launched into my office space at Co-Munity by another entrepreneur, young Black male entrepreneur, Jeremiah Captain. Shouts out to him. He handed me this book because I actually did not see how I was going to break even or make a profit, and feeling pretty down about it. And he said, you know what? You are not the first person. Read this book. And it's sort of a compendium of short stories of other Black entrepreneurs who made that leap of faith and launched businesses. So it's a very good read and will keep you inspired for the technical side, because I mentioned I'm a social worker by training. I have an MSW degree. I do not have an MBA. I do not have a background in tourism and hospitality. Those are all fields that are highly respected and been around for years, and I'm working in both of those arenas. But there is this book called The Personal MBA, Master the Art of Business. And this book is written by Josh Kaufman, and it was given to me as a Christmas present from my cousin. And I have been reading it, and it breaks down everything from your profit margins to value propositions to everything that you could ever think of without going to business school, without getting an MBA. So they, in fact, said, if you're thinking about going to get an MBA, read this book first, and then think about if that's, if you still want to do that. So those are the two books that I would highly recommend.
Thank you for that. So
you're welcome.
Tell us this. Let's kind of shift gears a minute. What is the worst moment in business, and what was the takeaway for you?
Oh my goodness. So far, the worst moment in business was sitting down with my accountant and having the conversation about my profit and loss, my profit and loss statement after my first year. It was difficult because there were so many expenses. I mean, we all hear the luxuries of being an entrepreneur, and there's all these, from a financial perspective, there's all these great write-offs that you get, and depending on how your business is established, the status of your business. I started out as a sole proprietor because I just thought it was pretty easy to maintain. But I also, again, reading the book, The Personal MBA, it talks about some of the pitfalls and challenges being a sole proprietor. And that is, as a sole proprietor, you are the business and the business is you. And so your expenses can be interchangeable. And so there were a lot of things that I was told or read into that I could get written off. And, when I sat down with my accountant, and I actually didn't get an accountant until about 6 months into the business. That's when I just said, you know what? Enough of this Excel spreadsheet and this QuickBooks. I actually need somebody who can make sure I know what I'm doing. And I'm glad I did, that I sat down with my accountant and she was able to kind of clean up some things and tell me, okay, look, moving forward, This is what you need to pay attention to. And thankfully, we made out pretty well for my first year in business. I didn't owe anything, and that is a blessing. But I think what I learned was to be mindful. I had a bunch of receipts. I had a ton of receipts because, you're told to keep track of your receipts. But I needed to, take a few steps back and get more organized with my receipts. I have this practice. Going back to your question earlier, and that is, I always look at Mondays as my money Mondays. So no matter what I'm doing on Mondays, at some point in time in that day, I'm either organizing my receipts, I'm taking a look at my QuickBooks, I'm doing something that pertains to money. So that has kept me disciplined, and so far we're on track.
So Letitia, tell us, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question that you wish I would have asked you, and I'd like you to answer that?
I would say, what fuels me to do what I do? What is my personal fuel? And the answer to that question is the spirit of human connection and the power of what happens when you bring people together and they trust each other. So when I say the exceptional connection and authentic connections, I know that sounds nice and it's flowery, it's jargon or language, but what I'm talking about is the synergy that happens when you talk to someone who shares something in common with you and you trust that person. You trust where they're coming from, you trust where they're going, and you're willing to co-create with them. Magic happens. And I've seen it happen, again, from my experience working within public systems, working within Oakland Housing Authority, working within the probation department. When you bring people together who have historically have had adversarial relationships, and you just create the space and the environment for them to feel safe, not judging one another, but truly connecting with each other, magic happens, innovation happens, lives are saved. And I think if we had more of that in our communities, in our society, in our world, we would be a greater place. So it's that vision, it's that hope that I have, that I intend to work towards, no matter where I am or what it is that I'm doing.
So why don't you give our audience a parting piece of advice you want to offer?
I always say this, hey, your greatest competition is yourself. And that is, I always like to see myself as someone who's staying in my own lane. It's hard sometimes to keep those blinders on and stay focused at the task ahead and not look to the left or the right to see what other people are doing. And then and also not to pay attention to that cheering crowd that's telling you, hey, they're catching up to you, or hey, shift to the left or right. I mean, it is important to welcome the wisdom, guidance, and the advice of other people. But at the end of the day, when you lay your head down at night and close your eyes, you have to be at peace with who you are as a person, with the purpose that you know that God has placed within you, your gifts, your talents, your skills, and your abilities. Nothing or no one can stand in the way if you own who you are and minimize the excuses for not getting to where you want to be. And you don't have to start grandiose. You don't have to take the great leap like I did and leave your full 9-to-5 and open up your business. But it could be something incremental, as you have a name for your business. Well, start looking it up. What would it take to establish your fictitious business name? Those things you can begin doing. But the only thing that's stopping you and or blocking you is yourself. So I do believe that personally, you are your greatest competition. So get out of your own way and let's make it happen.
Letitia, we've come to the part of our interview where we call it the Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something that you would like to not answer, if you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
The last movie you saw?
Baby Driver.
You relaxed doing what?
Dancing.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Ooh, Anita Baker and Nas.
And your favorite dance song?
I'll just say the wobble.
And what food you eat every week, no matter what?
Rice. Rice. Mixed vegetables.
And your favorite month?
March. My birthday month.
And when is your birthday? March the
29th. Go Aries.
All right. So we want to thank you, Letitia Henderson, so much for spending time with us on Black Entrepreneur Experience. So in closing, why don't you share with our audience what is the best way for our audience to connect with you and to support your business?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. You can reach me at www.connect.com. You can also reach me at area code 510-717-8207.
Letitia, thank you so much. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.